Okay, here we go.
Shia,
Yeah.
let me just ask you: Are
I
you
can't hear.
are you still in the Gemach, the Agula Gemach?
Am I still in the Gemach?
Yeah. You still look
Whatever,
after?
yeah. Huh?
Yeah. Okay. I need to discuss something with you for somebody. Okay, you'll
Okay.
be in there tomorrow morning.
It's Hashem, but it's Hashem.
All right.
We're scheduled to be in the Aguda by 8 o'clock
Okay.
this morning. Okay, so let's see where we're holding. So we had a interesting case where someone made a Tanai on this get that was an impossible Tanai to fulfill. Amanasa, you walk on water. Amanasa, you go up to Shemayim. Crazy Tanaim that are impossible to keep. The Tanakama, the Rabbanan said, well, she can't keep it, so there's no get. But Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, I'm sorry, not Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Rabbi Yehuda ben, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema. Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema said, no, if someone makes such a crazy t'nai, that's merely mafliga b'dvar. He's just harassing her, making things up, but it's not really a valid t'nai. And therefore, the get would be a get. So that's the fundamental machlokes. If you make an impossible t'nai, something that's physically impossible to fulfill, is it or is it not going to be a good get? That led us to a different shayla. That is, what if it's physically possible to fulfill the t'nai, but it's not halachically possible to fulfill the t'nai? For instance, he gave her a get, and he said, this will be your get, al manas, that you eat basar chazir. So technically, she can eat it and get malchus, but it's also to eat. Abaya holds that tonight would be bottled. Just like it's impossible to physically do something, it's impossible to do an aver. Therefore, this falls under the category of mafliga b'dvarim, according to Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema. Rava, on the other hand, says no. Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema says it's mafliga b'dvarim if you make a t'nai that simply cannot be done. But technically, eating basar chazir can be done. Since it can be done, it's going to be a valid. And on that, the Gemara has kash on Rava. We're about 12 lines on the bottom of Pei Dalet Amud Aleph. Meisvei break the Gemara. Hareza kitech almanasha dibali leploini. If someone tells his wife, I'm giving you this get, but you have to have relations with Ruvain. Niskai matnai. If she has relations with that person, hareza get, then it will be a valid get. Bimla get. So that's a valid t'nai. What if he said, Almanas shaloi tivali la'abu lavich? I'm giving you the get, Almanas, that for the rest of your life, you never have relations with your father, or you never have relations with my father. So the problem here is now he's tying her up for the rest of her life. Maybe such a t'nai will not free her. So this is not the type of t'nai that we need to be worried about. We don't have to be choishes that the get's going to be impacted because she's going to have relations with her father or her father. That's not going to happen. That's not something that we really need to be concerned about. Correct the Gemara, why didn't this brisa say even a greater? Why did the brisa say Almanasha tivoli la'abu lavich? Why didn't it say that even if he made it tonight, that she has to be novellas, the Abel Avincha, why didn't it say there that that's a valid t'nai? Elamai, it's not a valid t'nai, and therefore would be a good get. According to Bible, it's perfect. If you say it's only a get if you eat basar chazir, that's not a valid t'nai. So too, if you say it's not going to be a get unless you have relations with your father or my father, that's perfect. But according to Rava, the Rava Karsha, because Rava holds that if he conditions the get on her doing an Avera, that Tanai remains strong, and unless she does that Avera, it won't be a good get. So why does this branch indicate, no matter what, it will be a good get, and you ignore it? Amalach Rava, there's a massive difference between a t'nai that she should eat basar chazir and a t'nai that she should have relations with her father or with her father. Bishlama basar chazir after the aklavalaki. It's completely within her control. Physically, she can eat basar chazir. She can get malchus. Ploini, in a case where he made a t'nai that she has to be nevelas l'ploini in order for the get to work. Nami after the mishchada be'b'mamana. She could pay him to have relations with her. She could seduce him. She could figure out some way to make it happen. Are you telling me that's within her ability to make that happen? That she should have relations with her father or her father-in-law? Of the Isura, just because she'll be prepared to be over that Isur. Abba Vavicha, me of the Isura, her father or her father-in-law, they won't be interested no matter how much money she gives them. So that's the reason why this is not a T'nai Trova. It's not because it's usher. It's because she will never ever be able to get somebody to be moed. Mintzberg always tells me that there was a story with a Yerushalmi guy who was walking down Rechav Yafai, and he saw a woman there. He was very interested. So he told the Yitzhara, you've convinced me. Now all you got to do is convince her. It's the same thing. It was very not in her ability to be able to do. Zog to Gemara, when Yehuda Tema said that this not be considered a Tanai, it would be a get when he makes that crazy Tanai. It says Zaklal. This is a klal of something that's not going to be a good get because it's only maflik with dvarim. I'm sorry, it will be a good get. Tanai is not valid. Because Abba Vavicha is also an example of something that it will be a good get and the Tanai will be a good. But when Rabbi Yehuda ben Teva said, "Kaseh get," Dafka, this case is a get, not other cases. That's lemute basar chazir. That's to tell us that in a case where he made the get contingent on her eating chazir, that in fact would not be a get. That Tanai would be valid, and unless she ate basar chazir, the get wouldn't be a get. Let's turn over onto Peidal Amud Beis. Oops. Yeah. Okay. Getting on to Peidal Amud Beis. Zok to Gemara Vayter. Abaye, Kalal, according to Abaye, when Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema said, Zaklal, all these things would be a good get and it's nice ignored, even a t'nai that you must eat basar chazir, that's also an impossible t'nai, and there also the t'nai is not valid to get sky. And when Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema said kaseh get, he's telling us that there are certain things that aren't a good get. Lemute ploini. Everybody agrees if he says you have to have relations with ploini, that in fact is doable, and therefore the get is contingent upon that deal. Now we're going to ask Akasha on Abaye. Abaye, you said that if he makes the get contingent upon him doing an isser, like eating basar chazir, that's not a good time. It says in the Brayso, or if she was a Yisraelis, it's a get not to be truma. Or Nazira, what if she was a Nazira? He said this should only be a get al manasha tishtiyai. So all of these tanoim are valid. This guy met nine raise a get. So the Rav Anicha, according to Rav, it's perfect because she could be over the love. But according to Abaye Karcha, didn't Abaye say that according to Yehuda ben Tema, asking her to be over in Avera, that's not considered a viable tonight? Yet the Brayso says it is. So the Gemara, Amal Abaye, what's the kasha? Me suffers Divrei Akarli. Who said the Brayso we just quoted is consistent with Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema? Hamani Rabbanani. Maybe it's going according to the Rabbanan that every impossible t'nai is a valid t'nai. And therefore, unless she's Mekayim t'nai, the get will not be a good get. Fact the Gemara, we have another problem. Why this shouldn't be a good t'nai. The typically the master masha because of a terrible. He's making a t'nai in the get that she has to be over in the Why isn't that master masha because of a terrible? So the Gemara. This is not masna al mashakos of the Torah. Why? Ki amrin on masna al mashakos of the Torah. What is called masna al mashakos of the Torah? That's no bottle. It's going she'era ksusa va'inasa. If he tells her, I'm being the kadishu almanas that I'm not going to give you she'era ksusa va'inasa. That would be masna mashakos of the Torah. He is trying to change the structure of how kedushin works. That would be masla mashkos of Torah. The hukah going to check the hukah avol hacha ikakra. Here, he's not being oiker or anything. She's going to be over an isser if she wants to get. He's not causing that. Zog the Gemara, it's still a problem. Matzkav l'rabin klum ka'akra elo l'kiyum l'tnai today. Why is she doing an aver? Why will she eat the chazir? Only to be makayim the tnai that he placed into the get. So indirectly, ishtakach the iyuka akar. He with his tnai is causing an akira of a mitzvah in the Torah. So that should be considered masna machakos of the Torah. The tnai should not be valid. Ella Amar Avina, let me tell you what masna machakos of the Torah is. Ki amrinan masna mashakos of the Torah tonight bottle going to share by nasa the vade kalakar. There for sure he's being oifert. I'm being mekadeshu, and I don't want this kedushin to be mechayiv me share tusanoina. Aval hocha over here, his tonight telling her that it will be a get if you do an avera. That's not for sure that she's going to do an avera. She has the option not to do the avera and not to get the get. He didn't say you must eat chazir. He just said, if you want to get, eat chazir. So don't eat chazir, and you won't be megareshes. No need to modify the Torah. The Mishnah tells us that if you made it tonight, chutz miploini, it's not going to be a good get, according to the Tanakama. So what do you do? How do you fix that? Yasa, yitlenu imena. What you need to do is take the get back from her, and then give it to her again, while giving her and saying haret mugereshes without mentioning any type of tanai. That's how you would fix it. Now, we actually had a machlokes in the past about whether or not, if you give a get and you said talish tar choyb, if that's a good get. That's not a good get because he said shtar choyb, and there was a machlokes whether he can leave the get in her hand and just say no, it's a get, or does he have to take it back from her and give it again? So Zok Gemara Man Tamar Rab Chisda Rab Shimon ben Elazar. It must be Rab Shimon ben Elazar. The Tanya Rab Shimon ben Elazar Aimer Achi Yitlenu Imeno v'Yachzor v'Yitnenu Lo v'Yomer LaHagitech. Rab Shimon ben Elazar said that we have to do a complete do-over. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Afilu Tamer Rebbe. Even if you want to say it's going like Rebbe, who held in that case that you don't have to take it back. Our case is much worse. And in our case, you'd have to do a complete do-over. What's the difference? Dilchain Amar, your guy from Bovel, whose name was Rav Kahana, your man, Rav Kahana, told us pshat. Amar, he said, Shiny Hacha, Hoil v'kanasoi, lipasa boy l'kahuna. In the case where he gave her a get and he told her to shtar choyv, that get does nothing at all. So since the get was not expired, it wasn't used yet, he can just tell her, Harei Zagitech, without taking it back. But in our case, if he gave a get and said chutz miploini, that get already made her into a grusha, and from that point on, even though she might not be migureches, but she's not mutter anymore to marry a kohen. So therefore, since the get did something, he can't just change it. He has to do a complete do-over according to everybody. Gewaltig. Zog the Gemara weiter. Kasvu b'toicha. The Gemara said if the t'nai was mentioned verbally, then you can just do the get over again. But if you wrote the t'nai in the get, the whole get is bottle, and you're going to have to hire a cipher to rewrite the get. Amr Absafra, The Mishnah says that unless the Tanai was written in the get, no problem. What are you telling me, Reb Safra? Pshita, kisu b'soichetan. That's exactly what it says in the Mishnah. Are you just repeating the words of the Mishnah? No. I would have thought that when is the get possible only if the Tanai is written in the get? I'm sorry, when is the Tanai? When is the get not possible, even if it's written in the get? That's if after the Torah has the most important information in the get. That's his name, that's her name, as the name of the city. That's the most important part of the get. So I would have thought, when do you say that if the Tanai was only verbal, it will not possible to get? But if before the Torah was even written, he said verbally that this get is only a get for one person, or it's chutz l'ploini, maybe afilu al pen nami posel. Since before he even wrote any detail of the get, he's already saying that the get should only work for some people and not for others. That will posel the get completely, even if he said it al peh. Kamash Malon, that al peh will never posel a get, even if the al peh was said before the Torah was written, which is a critical time, it still will not posel the get. Only if you actually wrote the Tanai in the get, chutz miploini, that's a get that's posel, that it has to be written over. But Rabba took a different approach. In fact, the only time your words will not damage the get is if the Torah of the get was written, and only then did you say chutz l'ploini. Because since the get was written kosher, your words won't damage the get. If you actually said before the Torah was written, chutz miploini, afilu al peh nami posel. Even if you said chutz miploini, it will posel the get because you wrote it before the Torah, which means the whole get was written wrong. You know what Rava used to say to the Seifrim who wrote Gittin? He said, Shishku lebal, don't let the Baal open his mouth. Keep his mouth shut. Because if he says something that's a bad Tanai, it's going to mess up your get. So don't let him speak. After you write the Torah, even if he says a stupid Tanai, it doesn't matter. You can tell him to forego it. But if he says it before you wrote the get, before you wrote the Torah, that's when there'll be a problem. Zok the Gemara weiter. Tanu Rabbana. Kol ha-tanoin poislin beget. Divrei Rabbi. Rashi learns, Tosfos doesn't learn this way, but Rashi learns that any get that has any type of Tanai in it, even if the Tanai was fulfilled, the get's going to be possible. So he gives her a get and says, Amanata, you shouldn't drink wine for 30 days. That's a possible get. Right? Rebbe holds no Tanoim allowed at all. Even if she doesn't drink the wine for 30 days. It depends on what the Tanai was. Any Tanai that would mess up a get, if it was written, if it was spoken out, if that same Tanai was written in the get, it would possible the get. But if it's a Tanai that works, then for example, chutz. If you said chutz miploini, that would possible the get. If you wrote that in the get would be possible as well. Almanas, but if he said almanas, that you shouldn't marry Pliny, according to the shittas that we had earlier, where that would be a good get. Almanas, Amar Abzera said, Machlokes lefnei haTorah. The whole machlokes is if this Tanai was mentioned before the Torah was written, as we learned, that's much more damaging to the get. The Rebbe Savar, Gerzrinin Almanas Atuchutz. Really, there's no reason why it shouldn't be a good Tanai. Rebbe holds, if you said Chutz Miploini, it would be apostle get. So we're geyser, even a Tanai of Almanas shouldn't be good because it will ruin the get, because if you said Chutz, it would ruin the get. For Rabbanan Savri, Loi Gerzrinin Almanas Atuchutz. The Rabbanan do not go Almanas Atuchutz. Aval Achra Torah. But if the whole discussion here is a Tanai after the Torah, where it's not so damaging to the get, and let's just turn on to Amud Aleph. Hey, Amud Aleph. If it was after the Torah, Zok to Gemara, then divrei hakoil kosher. Everybody would hold that the get would be kosher. Umasnizin de gatonu kisvu, v'ukimna b'chutz, and the Mishnah that said kisvu, and we learned that it meant that he said chutz, aval almanas loy posel. But if he said almanas, it wouldn't be possible. Either you'll say lifnei Torah. It's speaking that this all was written before the Torah. For Rabbanon, it's going according to Rabbanon who holds even before the Torah. Only chutz is a problem, but almanas is not. Or it could be speaking after the Torah, where it's not so damaging. V'divrei hakoil, and then Sai Rabbanon, Sai Rabbi agree that after the Torah, if he only said almanas, then it will be kosher. Okay, gewaltig. Let's stop here, and we'll be mamshech tomorrow. Shkoyach, have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm crossing the border now. We caught up. We're on the daf, so I'll ask if we could stop a little bit early.
Yeah.
Shkoyach.
Okay.